Brainstorm Ponder, Price of Progress, Chain Lightning, Lightning Bolt. How do you as a burn player feel about this matchup?
I prefer to be on the mono red side because I think the blue cards are pretty bad. Their mana is less consistent.
Okay. Well, we're going upstairs. Here's Chase. Gonna spike you real good. His mark is gonna go down to 17. Morrison with a Ponder here. One card that really stinks for Morrison in this matchup was Price of Progress. Yuck.
Price of Progress is pretty stinky. Yeah.
It's bad for both sides, honestly.
Well, it's a lot worse for Mark than it is for Chase.
Yeah.
Chase might be able to deal 2 with it. That could happen.
Well, I think he has one in his hand, so I think he's hoping to deal 2 with it. Time to go into the old tank here. How to sequence these burn spells.
Especially against decks that have days and spell pierce. It's not just about this turn, it's how do I want to deploy my spells over the next 3 or 4 turns.
I imagine there are times when you actually want to run your burn spells into those effects.
And that's pretty rare. You got to be setting up something really powerful.
Yeah, that's what I mean.
Against a deck like Blue-Red Delver, there's no Haymaker. Sometimes you're willing to trade with Pierces and Dazes if Price of Progress is lights out against your opponent. But if that's not going on, like it is against Blue-Red Delver, then you want to invalidate those counters as much as possible.
Kovac sent a Chain Lightning to Morrison to put it down to 14. Morrison, in kind, sent back a Lightning Bolt to put Kovac down to 17. Arid Mace to the draw here for Chase. Can deploy that before passing the turn back. See if Morrison has anything interesting to do on this turn.
And now we've entered this strange part of the game, and another reason that I don't like it that much on the Blue-Red Delver side, where if Chase is sitting on Searing Blazes and Searing Bloods, Mark almost can't deploy creatures. It's really dangerous for him to ever put anything onto the board. And he's less equipped to burn out Chase than vice versa. So how is he supposed to get any forward momentum?
And creatures are so important to Morrison's deck because he has so many. 4 Delvers, 4 Snapcasters, 4 Goblin Guide, 3 Grim Mothman. So kind of the goal with Blue or Delver is to get in 6 to 8 points of damage with the creatures and then finish up with the burn. Sometimes more than that depending on the draw.
Now the creatures can be good on the early turns of the game for Mark. Because if he's able to back those up with Dazes and Spell Pierces and so forth, he can ignore the searing effects that the burn deck brings to the table. You can counter them. Now that we've reached this stage of the game where Chase can pay for those effects, it's really hard for Mark to put anything into play. And Mark's already at 13. I mean, if he gets hit with a Searing Blaze or a Searing Blood, he's in range.
Well, there's a mountain. So 2 mountains, 2 islands. There are 3 mountains and 3 islands overall in Morrison's deck, and then 3 volcanic islands and a whole bunch of fetch lands. So Mark is spending his turns sculpting, while Chase is just spending his turns drawing and passing the turn back.
And until Mark moves, Chase doesn't move either. He can build up a hand that can go over the top of Pierces and Dazes.
It is certainly a waiting game. Chase just drew another card and passed the turn back. Looks like Morrison's going to finally tap some mana. Here's a Snapcaster Mage. There's a creature, so it's on. And that would be 2 copies of Price of Progress in Chase's hand. There's a Bolt. Let's see if he moves now. It looks like he's gonna.
Well, this is a great spot for Mark to have Spell Pierce.
Yep.
He can really swing the game around if he has it here. Otherwise, things go back to being in Chase's favor.
Yep.
Because Chase's hand is a bit of a mess. I mean, there's 2 copies of Price of Progress. Mark's kind of randomly drawn I guess he has 6 basics in his list, which is quite a bit. But he doesn't have a lot going on.
Yeah, this looks like a Pierce right away. And it sure is. That'll take care of the Searing Blaze. As good as that card is in this situation, it will not resolve.
Yeah, and now the shift has occurred.
Because any damage that gets in here with the Snapcaster Mage is quite good.
Now keep in mind, he's still, Mark is still less equipped to burn out. He doesn't have Fire Blast in his deck. He doesn't have the same density of bolts.
Big question now is, do you target the Snapcaster Mage with a burn spell when you can just walk yourself into a daze?
I'm just taking this 2 points of damage here.
I don't want to get any of my spells dazed at any point. It's a disaster if it happens.
Yeah, and also, it means that Searing Blazes and Searing Bloods aren't live draws for you because Mark no longer has a creature in play.
This may be a Delver? Ponder, okay.
I understand the reservation. It's one of those spots where you're not really looking to take the hit. Going to 11's pretty dangerous. You might go to 9 next turn. Now you're in triple bolt range, all this stuff. But Chase has to be confident in his ability to burn out Mark. And in fact, maybe he wanted to test spell last turn. Maybe it wasn't even worth the risk of a spell pierce there.
So there's Morrison has to do.
All sorts of consequences here. And now this is happening as well. Now that Chase's shields are down, he's getting hit with the chain lightning. And you see Chase has been stranded with a chain lightning of his own in his hand for very long here because he can't afford to cast it into Mark's open double red. Mark's navigating this game very well.
Yeah, Chase can't sit around anymore. You know, he's got to get moving. And I feel like Chase might be forced now to cast something in a turn like a lightning bolt into a daze. Just because it's time to actually, do something. Yep, there's daze.
Well, I don't know why he would daze there because it doesn't look like mana's the bottleneck at all. I mean, his hand's price of progress, a couple price of progresses he can't cast. There's a chain lightning that he can now cast.
Yeah, finally.
And he has a fire blast in his hand, which can't be dazed or pierced kind of at any point. So I don't think that I would have used the bolt there at the end of the turn from Chase. If he wanted to do that, it should have been inside of combat on the Snapcaster Mage more than likely. But I think once you take the hit, you just have to untap.
Snapcaster Mage, the draw here from Morrison. There's the island again. Just going to pass the turn back over to Kovac. You see life totals 8 to 13. Fire away with the Rift Bolts on suspend. Snapcaster Mage. Now, it's not a burn spell you can target. Here's a Brainstorm, though. Brainstorm's still pretty good. See a Spell Pierce, a Lightning Bolt. Leave another red card there. Gonna have to put 2 back and then draw 1 of them again. I do like the way that Mark Morrison has navigated this game, though. I'm with you.
He has not put a Volcanic Island into play. I think he's not going. Yeah, I'm positive he won't.
Can't imagine he ever will. Let's see what this is. Goblin Guide. Hello. Hello, my friend.
Now, this card doesn't really change the equation unless you believe Mark has brought in or has Fire Blast somehow in his deck. Although now he is representing lethal next turn.
Gets scary. Looks like Kovac's going to take it and go down to 4. Does Chase have something to fire off here at the end of turn? Nope. Rift Bolt. Where are we going? That's the tough part. I think right now Kovac's hand is 2 Fire Blasts and 2 Price of Progress. As you mentioned, if he doesn't get that Bolt Daze, we're looking at an entirely different game.
Yeah. And mana has not been a bottleneck at this point. It's not like he had to play into that daze.
This is a situation here where he doesn't want to have to target a creature, but I think he feels like he has to now. Because it's a lethal attack next turn.
Yeah.
But if you can imagine Morrison was actually at 10 this turn instead of at 7, excuse me, instead of 13, he'd be going down to 7. Those 2 Fire Blasts aren't going to get the job done.
Yeah.
Now here's just simple Grim Lavamancer. And that thing wants to try to trade. And the question, of course, is has Chase run out of resources yet? The answer is no. Here's a Brainstorm. 3 cards. Now, those 3 weren't great. 2 fetch lands, another Brainstorm. Not bad because there's another Brainstorm involved, but they weren't anything special.
I'm not even sure if Mark wants to even be cracking fetch lands at this stage.
Well, going to 12 is risky.
Yeah.
You certainly don't want to search up an on-basic land. Here's the attack. Couldn't block fast enough.
I'm not sure if it's correct for Chase to block there.
I don't like going at 2.
I just don't know how you're beating. It seems unlikely to me that you can beat a bolt this game anyway. And in fact, there's a reasonable chance there if Mark does have a bolt, he's just bolting your Lavamancer and attacking.
I'm under the belief that you can beat a bolt this game.
But you also had to believe that he would have done it in lieu of he would have not bolted your Lavamancer in lieu of just trading with the Snapcaster Mage.
Sure.
So there's some evidence to indicate that that's not even in his hand.
The question, of course, is, what level is your opponent on, I suppose.
Yeah.
Morrison's going to go down to 12. It better be a basic. There it is.
It's incredible. I've never really seen a blue-red Delver list with this many basics, but they are coming up.
Yeah, 3 of each. And then only 3 volcanics. This is on the upkeep here, so Morrison has a card coming. Let's see what that card will be. Looks like a volcanic island. So he's having difficulty closing it out. Let's see if this brainstorm helps any. 1, 2, 3. I don't think it was a great brainstorm.
Doesn't look like it. I understand totally your point, the initial instinct of I don't want to go 2-2 against a deck with bolts.
Mm-hmm.
I'm on board with that. But Chase is so resource light. There's evidence to indicate that Mark doesn't have a bolt because there's a good chance he would have just used it before combat regardless. And Chase needs every resource he can get his hands on.
Gonna sacrifice Arid Mason, go get the last basic in the deck with Morrison. The 3rd mountain.
Although now going to 11, that now means that Rift Bolt is 8 and Fire Blast is a couple of 4s.
And one more brainstorm for the road. I think that's the last brainstorm here. So 1, 2, 3. Goblin Guide and Spike.
Uh-oh.
May have gotten a little harder now.
Well, this is lethal now.
Yep.
Mark trying to figure out what he wants as his leftovers. That was a really good brainstorm.
Not bad.
Now, in fairness, Mark has had a number of horrible brainstorms leading up to this one.
Yeah, he has. Hiya. There's your Goblin Guide. Yeah, Chase says that's fine. Here's a trigger. There's a mountain that'll be added. Perhaps it's time for a little float Fire Blast.
The guide?
Yeah.
No, we've gotten this far. We got to take it, and we're dead to a bolt. That's fine. But we can't. I don't think we can win by Fire Blasting a Goblin Guide here.
I would be Fire Blasting this Goblin Guide. I wouldn't be proud of it, but I would be doing it.
The problem is, what are you even drawing to at that point?
What's my opponent drawing to?
A second bolt. If you're making this play presupposing they have a bolt,
Okay.
then your Rift Bolt takes them down to 8. You have a Fire Blast in your hand. You no longer have the requisite mountains if you draw another Fire Blast. So you're looking at having to draw 2 more spells before your opponent finds something of substance.
I don't like hoping that my opponent doesn't have another bolt in their hand when they've brainstormed 3 times.
I mean, if it was Ponders and they were keeping, that's one thing. It's just...
I don't think that sitting there and just, I hope you don't have a bolt when you have brainstorms. When you brainstorm 3 times, I hope you don't have a bolt or a Snapcaster Mage and going down to 2. I don't think that's a recipe for winning. I don't think sitting here hoping your opponent doesn't have anything after they've looked at so many cards is a way to try to win the game. Spike's going to put him down to 1. Morrison's going to go down to 8 from the Rift Bolt. I'd rather have more control over things, basically. Like, I understand that Fire Blasting and Goblin Guide is not attractive. So, oh, boy, is that risky. Ugh.
Oh, Eidolon's, I think, excellent here.
Yeah, you think so?
Well, here's the thing about Eidolon. You're already on the Fire Blast plan. That doesn't
Okay.
trigger Eidolon.
Okay.
So what happens here is Mark kills it,
Goes to 6.
and now you only need to draw a bolt and you're good. If he takes the hit from it, then he's locked because he can't cast another spell. Now your Fire Blast is lethal.
Okay. What is that?
That is a great question. Is that Volcanic
I think
Fallout?
I think that's Volcanic Fallout.
Yes.
This is a Fire Blast. Oh my God, are we gonna have a draw? He can. Oh man, I thought we were gonna have a draw. It's too bad. Mark Morrison's gonna win due to that Volcanic Fallout.
Wow.
Man.
That's an odd one to see in this
Yeah,
matchup.
I thought we were gonna have a draw here out of nowhere.
I was pretty sure that it was Volcanic Fallout. I know a lot of those art pieces.
Yeah, me too.
But it's still just like, is that in his sideboard because his deck's all 2 down his creatures,
Yep.
and then brought in this matchup, and then that's the card he draws right there.
And that's the card he wins with.
Yeah.
The answer to all those questions is yes.
Exciting stuff, definitely.
Yeah. Mark Morrison's going to win this match over Chase Kovac 2-1. Blue Red Delver takes down the Burninator.